Hi guys, it's Dhruv here again, and I'm sorry that I couldn't post a new video. These past couple of weeks I had to make some pretty big life decisions as to what I'm gonna do with my next year. I decided to ultimately defer from college and then just join college next year in the fall. And yeah, so I have essentially this entire year to read a lot more and to hopefully post a lot more YouTube videos on what I read and what I learn, so that you guys may derive some sort of insights and perhaps be motivated to read some of these books yourselves. And so one of the books that I just recently finished was Chokher Bali by Rabindranath Tagore. I just finished it today, and I thought that this book was one of the most influential pieces of Indian literature for me that I've read regarding the whole idea of domestic life and marriage. Tagore really tackles those issues of love within a family, especially come the age of when a person marries another person and creates a new sort of family. So essentially what this novel is all about is tensions between different loved ones. And Tagore creates that very nicely because it first kind of, it assimilates you with the love between a mother and her child, but then the child grows up, marries, and then marries another person, and how he quickly forgets the mother, and then the child again falls in love with another girl through an extramarital affair, and all of these different things that kind of wreck what we assume ourselves is love in the first place. So what Tagore kind of essentially kind of elaborates and dictates is that love can be very foolish, and that is the premise of the whole novel, is that you have these different characters falling in love with different people, and there's so many different love triangles and so many different tensions that arise from the idea of I want to be with somebody else rather than whoever I am right now. And it's really amazing because this book deals with the central conflict, and it shows how that sort of mentality mindset that we usually have as human beings can lead to a lot of degradation within our existing relationships. And Tagore cleverly interweaves that into his novel by showing how these new sort of rushes and feelings and basically youthful arrogance, I would say, is absolutely destroying how the family was in the first place, or how your original loving loved ones who have been there for you since day one have been kind of diminished because of your own kind of arrogance with trying to pursue another girl, or cheat on your wife or whatever. And so Tagore makes that kind of like a theme of the novel. First is everybody starts out connected, then all of these different love conflicts happen, and then everybody's disjointed. And then it's Tagore kind of wraps everything around at the end through the threat of death or whatever, that everybody comes back again. And in that moment when you see everybody comes back again, it's like when you break a cup and all the pieces of the cup, even if you stitch them back together or you put them in clay back together, they still won't be the same cup. And you can clearly see that at the end of the book. Relationships can be really damaged by the actions and consequences that you take. And once you have damaged a certain relationship, for example your wife, if you cheat on her, you can't really expect ever for the same things to go back the same way. Just, I thought that was pretty revealing, and it showed me that I should really truly value my parents. First of all, because they've been with me there since day one, regardless of my whatever I did wrong, or regardless of who I was. They were there for me because I was their child. And at the end of the book, Tagore says that no matter what happens, you still have that familiar, the parental love will always transcend whatever constructs or confines you have right now. And I think that's very reassuring for me and very insightful. This book also gave me a huge glimpse on the whole idea of shame within Indian society. India as a society tends to place a lot of value on this whole narrative of shame, bringing shame upon our name, shame upon our honor, shame upon our village, our caste, or religion, or whatever. And so a lot of the conflicts and feelings of disgust and feelings of isolation that might arise from people in India is also necessarily based off that notion of shame, which is I've seen is not as prominent in other cultures that I've studied and been to. And yeah, one problem that I had with this book was that it was very it didn't treat, like, it treated women as objects that had to obey everything that men had to do. So no matter how many times the man had screwed up in the main character in his relationship, his wife was supposed to adapt to his fancies and his needs. And I thought that was just, I mean, that mentality, of course, is prevalent within India. And Tagore, like, he wrote this 100 years ago, where it was even more so like that. I think that times have changed, and it really shouldn't be like that. There has to be communication in both sides of a relationship. It shouldn't have to be that the man is the breadwinner, or he is the most powerful one, and that he is the. There has to be a lot more communication between the two sides of the relationship. And oddly enough, Tagore also has a slight feminist kind of theme to this book, in which this mistress, or like this stranger who basically manipulates the main character to falling in love with her instead of her wife, it shows that this Tagore, I don't know if this is feminist or not, but it shows like the power of female seduction on the guy, and how she basically became the master of him even though she was just a nobody, through the art of seduction. And I think that was just a really cool concept that I have a feeling can translate into many different, again, themes into our lives. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend reading Chokher Bali. It's probably, it's going to be a rough book if if you're uncomfortable with the idea that, like, like, the whole idea of women not being fully independent of their own notions, because our society right now has more and more directed into that way, which is good. But this book it really isn't like that. It's more like women are the ones that kind of hold accountability to men, who have to be there for them even though men have completely forgone them. So just keep that in mind when you're reading the book, that it's of a different context, and it's of a different time. So of course it's going to be different with the themes and everything, but a lot of the things that you've learned here, as I've said throughout the video, can be easily applicable to your life. At the end of the day, the biggest, most important thing is for you to treasure the relationships that you have right now. That's what Tagore argues. And don't do anything to compromise the ones that have been with you since day one, for in the end they are all you have. Thank you.